Standing on the steep mountainside, my feet planted firmly against the slope, I looked out over the sprawling valley below. I recalled hearing someone describe a similar experience, saying that if their brain could have jumped out of their head and run away, they would have gladly let it. At that moment, my brain was screaming. It wasn't a gentle objection, but a full-blown assault, a severe reprimand, pleading for me to retreat. My mind wanted nothing to do with what I was asking. It made that very clear. The last time I'd felt this level of intensity was years ago, standing on a 12-inch platform high above the Kawaru River in New Zealand, minutes from a bungee jump. So what was I doing this time to set off such a mental revolt? A friend and I were on a test run, hiking up a ski resort hill, preparing for an event we'd signed up for months earlier, and that was now only weeks away. The challenge? 29,029. The goal? Climb the equivalent elevation of Mount Everest within 36 hours. We'd chosen Stratton, Vermont, which meant we'd hike 1.3 miles up, ride the gondola down, and repeat this 17 times to match Everest's height. While the concept was straightforward, the execution was dawning on my brain as anything but. Before the test run, I hadn't been too worried. We'd been training, and I thought we were ready. But as we climbed that mountain for the first time, it became alarmingly clear. We weren't as prepared as I'd thought. This was going to be much harder than expected. My brain kicked into full negotiation mode, throwing out arguments like, "We have nothing to prove. We're 48. We don't have to do this. There's no shame in quitting now." And honestly, it wasn't wrong. I didn't need to prove anything. I wasn't obligated to do it. And quitting would carry no shame. But I knew my brain was missing something crucial. It was focused solely on the present pain and discomfort, forgetting that these feelings were temporary and didn't represent the full truth. It forgot that this was a necessary part of the growth process, and that while the pain was real, it wasn't a permanent reality. This discomfort was just a step, a phase, and an essential part to the transformation that would follow. Hello everyone, I'm Meg Tilton. Welcome to a podcast that is designed to help you access powers that lie within you. A podcast that will help guide you and empower you to know, feel, and most importantly use all the emotions, experiences, and parts your Heavenly Father has blessed you with in a deep and progressive way. You were sent here for greatness, for a purpose, and your ability to accomplish all you want and need is not outside of you, but in you. This is where I will teach you to use that power in a way that will move you forward like nothing ever has before. I'm thrilled you are here. This is episode 9, Lessons from the Mountain Part 1. Growth is not linear. That first ascent of the mountain took us an exhausting 1 hour and 45 minutes. Facing the idea of repeating it 17 more times felt genuinely impossible. My brain started doing the math. At 1 hour and 45 minutes per ascent and a 10-minute gondola ride down, I could see our margin for error shrinking. Completing 17 climbs in 36 hours was beginning to look out of reach before we'd even started. No wonder my brain was in a full panic mode. But there was something essential my brain was missing. A phenomenon that happens to all of us when we're faced with something new. It was forgetting that what it was really doing in that moment was learning. My brain was learning how to climb the mountain. It was gathering information on what the climb required in terms of energy, strategy, and effort. And with only one climb in its database, it concluded the final goal was impossible. It was making the mistake of seeing growth as linear rather than as the 2 steps forward, 1 step back process it often is. Anyone who goes after any big goal or sets out to achieve what many may feel is impossible will come upon this realization at some point in their journey. They will have to lean in and accept that forward progress is almost never a straight line, and it requires flexibility and changes to the plan at many points along the path. This reminds me of the story of Kenneth Rooks at the 2023 National Track and Field Championships, where he competed in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. At 2 minutes and 15 seconds into the race, Rooks fell, a devastating setback, especially in a championship race. Like anyone, his brain likely offered all kinds of consolation. Like, well, we tried our best. Or, I guess we will try again next year. Or, that's that. I guess we will just try and finish the race. But Rooks had done something with his brain pre-race. After falling during a practice, he and his coach had developed a plan for just such a situation. When he actually fell, his brain immediately went into execution mode instead of panic. And against the odds, Kenneth Rooks came back to win the race, overtaking his competitors one by one. It's easy to recognize nonlinear growth in athletics, but what about in music? A few years ago, I had the privilege of attending a OneRepublic concert. Partway through, lead singer and songwriter Ryan Tedder shared the story of how he and the band found success. For years, he had been writing songs and performing with OneRepublic, always seeming on the edge of a breakthrough, only for opportunities to fall through. It wasn't until 2007 that OneRepublic finally achieved a #1 hit, and Tedder's songwriting career for other artists took off around the same time. To an outsider, it might have looked like he skyrocketed to stardom overnight, but in reality, it came after years of effort, setbacks, and persistence. The most striking example of Tedder's nonlinear journey came when he shared a story about being approached by Tom Cruise to write a song for Top Gun Maverick. Can you guess how long it took him to write it? It took him just 1 day. Yet that overnight result was built on a long, winding path of growth, full of ups and downs, proving that success is often anything but straight and linear. It's easy to think Rooks or Tedder just got lucky, but in reality, they both had prepared their brains for a nonlinear race experience. They had taught their brains to stay in the race regardless of setbacks. My friend and I ended up climbing that mountain 7 more times over that weekend we were there visiting. Surprisingly, rather than getting slower each time, our pace improved. On our 4th and final hike that Saturday, we hit our fastest time of 1 hour and 23 minutes. It made little sense on the surface. After all, we were more tired than when we'd started. But that's where the nonlinear nature of growth comes in. Our brains were adapting to the terrain, our bodies adjusting to the physical demands, and we learned the importance of hydration, nutrition, and most importantly, belief. Once my brain accepted that I could climb the mountain, it stopped fighting and started working with me. The saying ignorance is bliss might be true in some situations, but here, climbing the mountain, ignorance was a huge disadvantage. Returning home, I threw myself into all the resources the 29029 staff had provided: coaching calls, podcasts, anything that would prepare my brain for the challenge. Hearing stories from others in similar situations taught my brain that every climb wouldn't be a linear progression. This knowledge became invaluable during the actual event, helping my brain focus on what I could control and release what I couldn't. A week and a half ago, I completed the 29029 challenge, and those early learning experiences played a crucial role. I knew from that very first ascent 6 weeks earlier that pacing was everything. Going out too fast would only create problems later, so I started slow, keeping my heart rate low and minimizing breaks. Our big push during our training the last 6 weeks paid off, and we completed the first ascent in just 1 hour and 9 minutes, our fastest climb, while feeling amazing instead of winded and panicked. While it was tempting to think we'd breeze through the rest, I knew better. Fatigue would come, but I'd learned that one slow lap didn't mean the next would be slow too. Our bodies can rejuvenate, and mine did. Remarkably, my fastest lap after the first 3 wasn't lap 4. It was lap 13. On paper, that makes no sense to logic, but that is what happens when you lean into non-linear growth. You show yourself that good things can still come when things look like they are all lost. Because I had taught my brain this skill, it was able to look at the bigger picture instead of hyper-focusing on what was happening right in the moment. This became even more crucial when at lap 7 I developed exercise-induced asthma. I've never had asthma before, so it caught me off guard. Every time I would begin a new ascent, I felt like I was breathing through a straw, and I could never get a deep breath. Naturally, my brain started to panic, but I slowed down and realized that as I climbed higher, it got better. Just like growth is not linear, setbacks aren't either. It would have been so easy to give up at the bottom because I couldn't breathe well. But because I kept going, I learned that it actually got better as my body warmed up again and the air became less dusty. If I had stopped right when it got uncomfortable, I never would have learned that, and I never would have accomplished the end goal of 17 ascents in 36 hours. The next few episodes, I will be exploring more lessons that I learned on the mountain. But today, I want you to remember that growth is never a straight linear line. It will have dips and turns. There will be times you think it's not possible, but even the smallest step is still forward progress of some sort. So keep moving. Keep striving, and no matter what you are facing in your life, keep climbing. I promise the desired destination is always worth it. If you are liking what you're hearing here on the podcast, would you do me a huge favor and go leave a review for me? Leaving a review helps this podcast reach more listeners like you who want to gain emotional mastery and truly love themselves. It doesn't take long, and I would really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you stepped a little bit closer to knowing that you are already whole and complete, and that every part of you is loved and enough. You truly do have all the power inside of you to accomplish the work you were sent here to do. Come back next week to learn more and continue to access the power within.